Education and Economic Development, Finance and Policy Committee. We are in under Rule 10.01. I don't think I need to repeat that too often. So we are in a Zoom environment. And Ms. Schafel, will you please take the roll?
Pelowski.
Present.
Pelowski present. Sandell.
Present.
Sandell present. Keel.
Present.
Keel present. Bierman.
Present.
Bierman present. Bliss.
Present.
Bliss present. Burkle.
Present.
Burkle present. Edelson.
Present.
Edelson present. Frazier.
Present.
Frazier present. Hamilton.
Present.
Hamilton present. Liz Lagarde.
Present.
Liz Lagarde present. McDonald. McDonald.
Present.
McDonald
He's-
present.
He's here. His audio may be frozen.
Yeah, you're right.
Sandsted.
Present.
Sundin.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
All right, Representative Sandell, do you have a motion for us?
Mr. Chair, I do. I've read the minutes and consulted with Mr. Worth and move that the minutes of our last meeting be adopted.
Representative Sandell moves that the minutes of the previous meeting be adopted. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion prevails. Minutes are adopted. Members, we're going to return to where we stopped last week. We have the Construction Careers Foundation, and I think they're all here. Why don't I let Dan McConnell start again, and then we'll just proceed down where we had been going last week. So welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for rescheduling us and allowing us to continue our testimony. My name is Dan McConnell. I am the business manager of the Minneapolis Building and Construction Trades Council. I'm joined by, and I'm on the board of the Construction Careers Foundation. With me is the chair of our board, Mr. Gary Thaden, Pat Wagner, our executive director, and Justin Rost, who runs our Helmets to Hard Hats program. And we love the opportunity, appreciate the opportunity to come back before you and present about the good work that we're doing and how we can be part of the solution to get more people into the trades. I'll let Gary take it from there.
Welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself for the record.
My name is Gary Thaden. I'm the board chair for the Construction Careers Foundation, and I am a representative of about 300 different construction subcontractors in the plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical fields. The Construction Careers Foundation, we have a wonderful program where we get middle school and high school students oriented towards construction. They hear about construction. They actually do some projects in the middle school. They go to classes during the school year and the end of the year in the summer. And we also have orientation that we do. And I'd like to show you a short video that we have.
Does Mr. Worth have it, or are you trying to bring it up?
Well, apparently it didn't work.
Mr. Thaden, did you send that to
There,
Mr.
it didn't work. It didn't
right.
work apparently. So let me try that again. there. So we did that video in order to show young people and attract young people into the construction industry profession. Now I would like to have Pat Wagner talk to us about the different programs that we have in the Construction Career Foundation.
Pat Wagner, welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you. My name is Pat Wagner. I'm the current Executive Director for Construction Careers Foundation. And thank you, Mr. Chair and representatives, for this opportunity to really share about the Construction Career Pathway Initiative. And this is the page 2 of the information that we had sent you, a 12-page last week, and I will be addressing some of the things on some of the other pages. That video that you saw is just one of the tools we use to accomplish our goal. It's just one of many. And our primary goal is to educate, as Gary said, is to educate our emerging workforce to really understand the value and the viability of a career in construction. And I say career versus jobs. Our secondary goal is to really influence the influencers. So to educate the parents and to educate teachers and counselors about construction as a career choice. So how do we accomplish it? We offer programs, events, and activities all year round that offer hands-on or experiential and our educational opportunities. So if you start with me on the left with the outreach campaign, we utilize social media. So we have Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, that really guides people to the website. And if you look on the last 2 pages at another time on the 12-page document we had sent, it really shows the high traffic rate that is happening on this website. So often people go to a website and they click on and they click off, and it's really showing that there's a longer period of time. And what's so unique about it is that they spend most of the time on the career information itself. So we think that's a very good sign. What we're adding also this year, or we have, is a construction mobile app. And we're excited about it because it will provide a direct link statewide concerning apprenticeship opportunities and career exposure activities. The exciting piece is this year we are going to be doing language translations for that app. It will be Hmong, Spanish, and Somali. The other piece that we've added is that we now have, we created, and as challenging as COVID has been for all of us, what it did is it caused us to pause and say, how can we expand what we do? And so we've created an online platform. We are working on it right now. One of the first things that we are going to do is we're going to provide online CEU training and apprenticeship awareness for teachers and counselors and administrators. So moving on to some more of the hands-on, the Learn to Build is our middle school initiative. And last week, a few representatives did mention how important it is to educate young people at an early age, and we are right with you. In 2017, we did our first hands-on pilot with middle school. We had like 36 students. And last year, in 2020, we were slated to offer this to 450 young people. As we all know, COVID happened, and our team did a wonderful pivot and created take-home kits representing 4 different trade areas. And so that's how we shifted this year. Going forward, what we're pleased about is that when opportunity happens, we will continue with the those hands-on activities, but we'll also, depending upon what's happening, we can do the kits, the stay-at-home kits. And then the third option is we have taken the curriculum, the modules that we use for the hands-on, and we are moving that online. What's exciting about that is that then a school or a group that works with middle school students in another part of the state will be able to access those curriculum as well as an instructional manual. And so we're excited about that. Continuing with career exposure, going towards the high school student, one of our primary strategic partners is Construct Tomorrow, and they conduct one-day hands-on events, 8 to 10 of them a year throughout the state of Minnesota. Concerning academic year, we work with schools that we refer to as CAP, C-A-P, or Construction Apprenticeship Preparation Schools. Historically, when we started working with these schools, let me be a little more clear. These are schools that offer a construction curriculum. So they have it in their system, and it's what they are committed to do. Historically, we first supported them by providing some funding support for them to purchase some equipment and supplies that they needed in their training rooms. Of late, we bring them together and we convene these instructors to learn from one another. And it's exciting to watch how much they do learn from one another in terms of how are you doing dual enrollment and how are you doing this? And so we continue to work with those schools as a resource for them. During the summer, we have the Minnesota Trades Academy. And this is a paid summer internship. So they actually earn while they learn. Historically, we've done 6 to 9 weeks during the summer. The 6 weeks is for the younger students, and we really help them with safety, tool identification, and safety, and more safety, and more safety. And they create like a shed, and so they have a project that they do as well, and they learn about the various options of the trades. The older students, which we call track 2, go 9 weeks, and they go to each of the training centers to be taught by the experts themselves, by the industry experts. And moving along, what we're very excited about is that we are bringing to our team a navigator to help the seniors, either from the Trades Academy or from our CAP strategic partner schools. This navigator will help the students continue to find their way into construction as a career choice for them. Looking at some of these statistics, and this is on page 3, but I'll just share this. Between 2017 and 2020, there were over 722 students involved in a program. And in total, there were 722 schools, and there was 25,533 students. Of that, if we look at demographics statewide, 40% of the youth involved were non-white and 60% are white. If we look in the metro area, it flips, and it's 60% of participants are, non-white and 40% are white. 30% of participants are female, and that surprised all of us. So 30% were female, and we cannot do all of this on our own. We just are so grateful of the number of strategic partners that we have working with us. And on page 8, it really lists out over 50 strategic partners representing education and schools, industry, labor, government, community, And we're so grateful for the involvement with all of them. Really, in closing, we truly believe that investing in our future workforce is investing in our communities. And we're just very grateful for the opportunity to do this work. So thank you, Mr. Chairman and representatives. And if you have any questions, I'm open.
Ms. Wagner, what can we do to help you? You mentioned you had partners. What would you like the legislature to do to partner with you?
Gary.
Mr. Chair, we are here to receive, hopefully receive funding through the state legislature. Same amount that we received last year, a little over $750,000 to continue our work per year.
So, Mr. Thayton, is that, explain to me if that's sufficient to do the task that you've outlined for us. I'm still looking at the chart that you have up on the screen and the number of different elements you're working in. So 700, is that 750,000 each year, the biennium? So are we looking at just a little over $1 million? Is that what we're looking at?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, yes, that's per year. And we are very economical. We work in the construction industry and we work on the low bid method. And so we know how to do things economically. Obviously, more money would expand the number of students that we could reach and the number of programs we could have. But we can survive on this allocation from the Workforce Development Fund.
All right, members, are there any questions? I can't access right now my Zoom screen. Representative Sandstead, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have just a couple of questions. The first question I'm wondering about is when you were talking, and this would probably be for Ms. Wagner, when you were discussing your online curriculum, is there a cost for schools to access that online curriculum?
There won't be, at least at the
Sorry,
beginning.
Ms. Wagner, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
No, just go through the chair. Just say Mr. Chair and then the representative's name. So we've got it clear who you're talking to.
Thank you so much for that guidance. We are working on it right now, and we're looking at the phase 1 will be of no cost. And we're not certain of the phases after that. That's something we're entertaining, but not at the beginning. We really are looking in the phase 1 to get as much of this out as we can.
Representative Sands.
Mr. Chair, thank you. And then just one more question regarding the summer intern programs. Can you tell me how does a student go about accessing that program? How are they selected for participating in one of these academies? And then is this centered for students more in a metro area? Is it across greater Minnesota as well? And is there housing available to these students that are coming in for either the 6 or the 9-week program?
Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Representative. We have a great this is in the metro area right now. Okay, the existing trades academy is in the metro area. And we have extensive outreach to the metro schools. In last year, we had over 400 youth that were interested in the program. And how that happens is they fill out an application, and then we invite any interested student to an interview. They are interviewed by a panel, and that drops quite a bit. And I don't have the numbers exactly in front of me, but I know it was like around 120 that we then interviewed. And then we selected, and there were 72 internships offered in 2019. There is no housing that we offer. We do provide transportation to get to certain locations. What happened, and I just want to build on this, is during the COVID situation, our team pivoted and they created a hybrid program. So a lot was online, Google Classroom, and then we had small crews of 4, only 1 day a week, 4 students to an instructor. What that taught us, and this answers your last question, is that we really want to look at how can we, going forward, adjust our program and make recommendations so it could be replicated in other parts of the state. That is our vision going forward.
Representative Sandsted.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Just one quick follow-up.
Members, it would appear we're having some difficulties here. I don't know if you can hear me. I cannot hear you.
Mr. Chair, did you hear my question?
Representative Sandsted, I did not. Perhaps if we should, maybe we should take the PowerPoint down for now and just work off the regular Zoom. Let's see if that solves some of our problems. There's been some freezing, at least on my end of responses. So Representative Sandsted, why don't you repeat your question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question was just to ask, would it be possible for students in Greater Minnesota to apply for one of these summer internships if they were able to provide their own housing and so on?
Ms. Wagner?
Mr. Chair and Representative Sandsted, regretfully, with the current Trades Academy design, someone outside of certain regions would not be able to. As I said, this is an internship, and so we work with Right Track, which is the city of St. Paul, ULEAD, which is Ramsey County, and then Step Up, which is in the Minneapolis area. And so what needs to happen is the interns have to live within those regions to be able to become an intern and receive pay.
Representative Sandsted.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to preface my question with the skepticism sometimes I have with for every dollar invested into A, B, and C, it yields a number of dollars back to the state. So I'm wondering with this program, which I think many in my district, including myself, really appreciates, and the work that you're doing for the trades and educating our younger kids and young adults, have you any research that shows what kind of dollars invested in brings back to the state? And again, we've heard those for years, so I'm kind of skeptical of some of those numbers, but nevertheless, I'd like to hear some of yours if you have that.
Mr. Thaden, would that be to you?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and I spoke without looking at my notes. The dollar amounts from the Workforce Development Fund are $375,000 each year for the program that Pat Wagner was just discussing, and then $200,000 each year for the Helmets to Hard Hats program. Mr. Chair, Representative McDonald, your question, state law doesn't allow us to track individual students because of privacy for students. And so we cannot track when somebody goes through one of our programs and where that leads into a construction trade.
Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, then maybe, Mr. Chair, you could answer this. How do we track other investments such as early childhood development and educational things if the state law doesn't apply for us to track students?
Representative McDonald, I would have to defer to staff, and I don't think our staff on this meeting could answer the question, but as we've done before, you posed a question, we'll get an answer for you for the next meeting. Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's adequate. That's fine. Then, Mr. Chair, one more question to the gentleman. In regards to the middle school, you mentioned you start in middle school. In some districts, that's a different number. It could be 5th, 6th grade, could be 7th, 8th. Just curious as to what generally, when you expose the students to this, what is middle school? What grade is that in your work?
Mr. Thaden or Ms. Wagner, I'm not sure who.
Ms. Wagner, please.
Ms. Wagner.
Mr. Chair and Representative McDonald, we usually look at starting at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But sometimes the schools that we work with, we try to identify the schools that are in a certain region near those CAP high schools, so that we really are trying to orchestrate that a young person, if they show an interest and we feel they are saying, I want more, then they can go to that high school that offers a construction curriculum.
Representative McDonald.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Wagner, thank you very much. I think that's a great age, I think, or grade to reintroduce them to the trades and building. You know, the young kids, when they go into kindergarten, first and second grade, you ask them what they want to be. Well, I want to be a fireman. I want to be a policeman. I want to drive a tractor. I want to drive a big skid loader, fire truck. They want to build things. And then as they get into middle school, I don't know if they're taught that those things aren't the best thing for their interest. And then they move their interest away from that. So, you know, our kids from the beginning want to build things, you know, and do things. So I think that's a great age to start in. I would even propose even earlier, you know, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and keep it going through all of school. That's just my thoughts on that, Mr. Chair. Ms. Wagner, thank you very much.
Representative Sandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Wagner and Mr. Thaden. Years ago, Minneapolis and St. Paul each had high schools which prepared young men and women for the trades. Vocational school in Minneapolis and Mechanic Arts in St. Paul. Both were closed a number of years ago. But the demand for labor in the trades has grown. Has your organization worked with school districts across the state to establish the sort of programs that Vocational and Mechanic Arts did, preparing kids for work as apprentices immediately leaving high school?
Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Sandell. Thank you for that question. It is our vision to start working with other districts throughout the state. We first wanted to, I'm a pragmatic kind of a person and was looking to first design here in the metro area, and we are working with some school districts, and then have a model that we can share with other school districts. So that is on our horizon. It's on our vision out there in the future. Oh, and
Representative Sandell.
Just one quick follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you briefly describe the career path for a young man or a young woman leaving high school and becoming an apprentice? How long are they working as an apprentice? What's their wage? And how quickly is it possible for a person to establish themselves in a trade?
Ms. Wagner.
Would it be possible to have our director of helmets to hard hats answer that question, because he's a tradesman himself?
Is that Justin Roast?
Yes.
All right. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record. I think you're muted, Mr. Roast.
Does that sound better, Mr. Chair?
Yes, you're fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, representatives, for having us. I'm the director of Minnesota's Helmets to Hard Hats program. My name is Justin Rost. In the trades, to address the representative's question, there are programs that go from 2 years to 5 years, typically not including pre-apprenticeship. That is from the beginning of schooling to the end and turning out at journeyman level in the trades. Usually you establish yourself at around 50% of the journeyman wage when you start the apprenticeship, which is somewhere usually in around the $20 an hour range at the beginning of the apprenticeship, working your way up to whatever the full journeyman wage is at the end, which can range anywhere from around $35 to around $45, depending on the trade.
Representative Sandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Rust.
Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Thaden and Ms. Wagner and Mr. Rose. My question is, I think this sounds like a great program. And I know that these are good careers and good paying jobs. In terms with the internship program, are there any intentional efforts that you're making to ensure that students from all backgrounds are having access to participate?
Ms. Wagner, do you want to handle that, or Ms. Wagner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Frazier, could you ask that question again, because it
Yeah.
blanked out just for a moment.
Yes,
Right.
I'll ask
Representative
again.
Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Wagner, the question was, are there any intentional efforts that you're taking with the program to ensure that students from all backgrounds are having access to participate?
Ms. Wagner.
Mr. Chair and Ms. Representative Frazier, yes, thank you for this question. Of any of our programs, there's really an effort in this phase of our Minneapolis or Metro program for the construction trades to really get into as many high schools as we can and to share about the opportunity that is there. That is one program that it is 78% of our participants are non-white. And we also have had, I'll be honest, sometimes we've had a couple of young people that were homeless that we found out, and we've got them into programs that could sustain them. So it is an effort of ours. Thank you.
Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Wagner. That's all.
Mr. Rose, did you have a presentation too that you wish to make?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
All right. Why don't you identify yourself again for the record and then proceed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, representatives. My name is Justin Ross. I'm the director of the Minnesota Helmets to Hard Hats program here in Minnesota. I myself am a Marine Corps infantry veteran and a member of the trades. I worked my way from pre-apprenticeship all the way through to journeyman level in the sheet metal workers. And I know what it's like to be a veteran coming out of service and having what I called a lot of skills, but not necessarily the skills that employers are looking for. I bounced around from job to job for quite a few years before I found my way into the trades, which really felt like a home to me. Once I found apprenticeship, I had a structured system that helped me go from the beginning to the end. I understood what was asked of me, and I understood what I needed to do to proceed. And what it really was a direct path to financial stability in the middle class. Coming out of service with a wife and a young child, that was exactly what I was looking for, and it was exactly what was provided to me. So that's what we try and do with Helmets to Hard Hats. We try and help veterans of any era, of any age, with any branch of service, National Guard, Reserve, what have you. If you've worn a uniform in the United States military, you're given an opportunity through Helmets to Hard Hats to try and follow a career path into the construction trades. Now, what we do know about financial stability, which is what we're offering here, is that it also comes to help support and try and end depression, PTSD, TBIs, which is traumatic brain injury, and suicide, which has plagued veterans for a very long time. So another factor in this program is that we also partner with the veteran community to try and combat veteran suicide and mental illness. Through this program, we worked with the Twin City Suicide Prevention Coalition. And through that program in the last year with many partnering veteran organizations, we've actually reshaped the way the VA was reactive to veteran suicide and PTSD and made it proactive to the point where the program was successful. It had such a successful model here that they are taking it to the national level and actually changing the way the VA handles it throughout the entire US. To speak more about the actual pathways and apprenticeship, in the last 3 years, the Helmets to Hard Hats program has helped around 775 veterans get information on how to proceed through the apprenticeship programs, which is 10 times the number, or I'm sorry, it is equal to the number of veterans who were able to be helped by the National Helmets to Hard Hats program in the 10 years prior to us being here. So having some skin in the game, having somebody on the ground here in Minnesota has made a tremendous effort and made a tremendous difference in helping these veterans understand a pathway to the middle class. We have placed over 120 veterans into apprenticeships, and it's been a successful program so far.
Members, questions? Representative Keel.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, Mr. Rost, thank you very much for your service. And it's really encouraging to see a pathway to a successful career after a successful service to our country. And I really appreciate that. I actually have a nephew that is an Iraqi veteran that works on the farm and specifically works with hogs. So, and I see much success in doing that physical work. He still suffers quite a bit with migraines, and so they have to be adjusting to his health schedule, but works very hard when he's there. And did you say that there were 70, I'm not sure if I caught that right, 75,000, or how many were successful from helmets to hard hats?
Mr. Roast.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative, to answer your question, we have helped 775 veterans understand the pathway that they would want to proceed for the career that they are looking for. We have helped over 120 veterans actually land in apprenticeships that we are aware of. I'm certain that there are far more than that, but sometimes after they get a job, they are much harder to follow up with.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Representative Keel.
Thank you very much. This is very encouraging to help people seek, jobs that are fulfilling. Let's put it that way. Does this really help reduce the? You mentioned it, the suicide rates, and so by giving purpose to our veterans, this has been a very successful program, correct?
Mr. Roast.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative, for the question. Yes. According to the VA hospital and their research, that having a stable financial position, especially one with a family, it does greatly reduce the amount of the effects of PTSD and suicide. It does give purpose, and it does help with depression, which often leads to suicide. So having said that, yes, the answer would be yes.
Representative Keel.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And once again, thank you, Mr. Rust, for your service, both, like I said, in the military and also what you're doing now for our students and our veterans. Thank you.
Representative Bierman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for Mr. Roast. Thank you for your work in this project. And I'm curious, how do you get the word out to veterans who might be interested or folks that would join up to this program?
Mr. Roast.
Mr. Chair, Representative, we work in conjunction with the National Helmets to Hard Hats program, which covers all 50 states and also has a sister organization that is not directly affiliated, but it partnered with in Canada. So we do help them also. That program actually has regional representatives to go to active duty bases and actually talk to veterans while they're getting ready to get out, to inform them about the pathway they could take into the construction trades. Here in Minnesota, I partner with the VA Vocational Rehab, Minnesota's DEED programs, including Career Force, the County Veteran Service Officers, MACV, which is the Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans, and any other employment group out there. I go to as many job fairs as possible. Obviously, COVID did have an impact on that this year. But through that, we have national outreach on social media through the National Helmets to Hard Hats program. Being partnered with Construction Careers Pathways here in Minnesota allows us to have access to social media and partner up so that we can not only talk to parents interested in getting their kids interested in construction, or schools that may want to work with the Construction Careers Pathways, but we also get that information out to veterans through that social media platform. I've also partnered with the Eagle Group of Veterans here in Minnesota and Battle Buddies USA, which has a social media that is pushing over 60,000 veterans now.
Representative Frazier. Representative Bierman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Roast, for that comprehensive answer. And I applaud the work you're doing and that connection, as Representative Keel pointed out, the importance of job stability and the effects on mental health are incalculable. And just wondered if you could comment a bit more on the strides you've made in helping the VA change their programs to help these veterans with such a program. If there's any highlights you could give us.
Mr. Roast.
Mr. Chair, Representative, in working with the Twin City Suicide Prevention Coalition, we had community leaders and veteran organization leaders meet together to brainstorm ideas on how to be more proactive in bringing in community leaders, employers, education and training for EMS, police, and hospital staff who may encounter veterans who may not be doing well. Also, by making them understand or helping them understand what it's like for a veteran when they come home. To go from, at least in my experience, a very tight knit unit, a very close family of friends, a brotherhood, if you will, to kind of being on your own and being unsure of your future, which is something that, while you're in the military, you always have to be fluid. It's an ever changing environment. However, you at least have some structure to your life, and you come home and sometimes you don't. What we try and do is help provide educational pamphlets and things like that to employers, and later on it'll come with training and things like that that can be signed up for at the VA. Here in Minnesota, we worked on this group. I was a member of the large audience, and then I was also a part of the more tight knit planning part of it, the more leadership role. I was in that circle too. So we were very influential in trying to change the way that employers might understand how veterans react in the workplace, and therefore being able to help them before things get off the rails, being able to understand the signs and symptoms of potential depression or suicidal tendencies and being able to address it. We were also able to, the National Helmets to Hard Hats program does have a pamphlet that they had already put out for suicide prevention and awareness. And that information was distributed throughout the apprenticeship programs that we work with. And that actually directly resulted in 3 veterans getting help who did claim later that they were suicidal at the time. So the program has already, in fact, helped at least 3 that we're aware of, and we're hoping that the wider impact of the VA partnership will help veterans throughout the entire United States.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it.
Members, any more questions of members? Then I'd like to return just for a second to Ms. Wagner's. I just want to make sure I have the numbers right. You mentioned that you had 400 youths that applied for this, 120 internships. I hope I got that right. And that this was primarily a Metro program. It's a great program. My concern, though, are the numbers. 400 applying, 120 internships. The need would certainly exceed the numbers that we're looking at here. And it goes back to my initial question, what can we do to help? And then if members recall last week, we had the New Ulm superintendent talk about the Career Center, which again was just one area doing this. Hopefully the goal of this committee is to broaden our scope and to make sure that we can do beyond the Metro and also make it happen in greater Minnesota, because frankly, New Ulm and maybe a few other centers, but it isn't happening across greater Minnesota. So Ms. Wagner, was I correct with those numbers, or do you want to correct me before we sign off with this group today?
Mr. Chair, those are
Yes.
correct, and I can send you a one-page report on all of the numbers and all the schools that had been outreach to, if that would be of value.
Ms. Wagner, that would be of value. I'm impressed by the numbers, but I think the need so outweighs the numbers that we're looking at here. There has to be a way to expand this. And I'm not talking about just throwing money at something, but there has to be a way for other school districts in the Metro and then across Minnesota to use this. Representative Lizagard, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to that point, Representative Stansted asked a really good question. And so my understanding from your answer is it a partnership is why you chose, the Twin Cities area? And if you garnered partnerships in greater Minnesota, would you expand your program?
Ms. Wagner.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Representative, we find that we are in the current design that we have, that there is the need to partner with who's going to employ the youth during the summer and pay for their internships. And there's already existing summer internship programs, as I said, with Ramsey County and Minneapolis and St. Paul. And so we partner with them. The replication challenge is finding similar summer what do I want to say? programs, government programs, and we use that because that's what we are using, who already have a system in place. And so what we are trying to do is investigate what are some other systems that are in place to be able to replicate this, or can we redesign it that we could partner with some other entity in order to do more replication.
Representative
Mr.
Bliska.
Chair,
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Roast, do you wish to? No, Mr. Tate.
yes,
Okay,
thank you. I wanted to make sure we were clear. We're talking about just a couple of our programs. The Construct Tomorrow program goes throughout the state of Minnesota. In fact, it's mostly in greater Minnesota. And because of COVID, we've figured out ways now to expand our middle school program so that we can ship those kits and do it remotely. And that's our plan, is to move that into greater Minnesota.
Representative Lisagard, we'll go back
Thank
to
you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I didn't want to, dive too deep, but I thought Representative Sandsted brought up a really good question. In greater Minnesota, the need is still there. And if you are looking for programs, I think that, certain counties, if it's counties or, St. Louis and all of them, we're big in the trades up there. So if we can model after a system that's working, I think that we need to reach out to them if that makes your ability to expand quicker. I think that's important for greater Minnesota. So the trades have been a blessing. My daughter's a crane operator, my whole family. So you guys, what you do, the program 218 up north, and all of these different programs is extremely important to greater Minnesota and the whole state in general. So I applaud every single one of you for what you bring to the table. Thank you.
Mr. McConnell, you wish to add to this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to point out in the presentation, Appendix B lists all the schools throughout the state that we've partnered with to do Construct Tomorrow. I think it's quite a few of the districts around the state. We want to be respectful of I work for the Minneapolis Trades Council, right? We have outstate councils as well, whether they're on the range or down in Rochester, throughout the state, that we partner with on the trade side. So we really want to take their lead as far as how we partner with them. So we want to be respectful of their jurisdiction and bring programs to them. If they come and ask us for help, we're there to help them. Absolutely. And Mr. Chair, if I could just applaud your committee's work on this as a student in high school, which seems like many years ago now. Not having the hands-on thing would have been really difficult, right? Not having trade school, career and technical education component in my education would have been detrimental, I believe, to my thing. And I really appreciate the committee's focus on looking at if people aren't doing well in the traditional academic setting, to provide a different way for people to learn, I think is key. And our program's a small part of that. We're happy to try and figure out how to expand it and replicate it throughout the state. But I just really wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for this work.
Right. And to all of you, don't be bashful about telling us what we could do to help you. So if there are specific things, let us know. Representative Sandsted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to Ms. Wagner or whomever, I just want to share that I too am from the range, and we have realized for quite a time now that Minnesota is facing a workforce shortage, and especially in the trades. As part of that, the school district that I worked for worked very hard with the neighboring school district. They ended up consolidating, and now they are building a careers academy high school that will help get students into career paths and explore different opportunities for them. So I think that there is a great opportunity in greater Minnesota to start expanding and looking at programs like this. We've already done it in our mining industry with internships and partnerships. So if there's anything that I can do to help facilitate the expansion into my area, that would be something I would very much welcome. And thank you for the great work you're doing, because the need is a statewide need, and we're ready to go on the range. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Members, any other questions? the material that you're going to send us, we will use. We may ask you to come back at a later date if we want some specificity as we put some language together. And if you have something specific for us that you think would be helpful this session, let us know and we'll make sure we get it drafted. So I want to thank all of you. This was an excellent presentation, very helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
I'm going to move to the next item on the agenda, the Professional Educators Licensing and Standard Board. Alex, is it Liuzzi? I'm not sure here.
Mr. Chair, it's Liuzzi.
Liuzzi, okay. Welcome to the committee and please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Alex Liuzzi. I'm the Executive Director of the Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board. And boy, not only extremely excited to be able to speak to you today about licensure, but it was great to hear the last presentations because I really think the work that I'll be talking about today sort of takes that one step back. How do we get the teachers to be able to work with those students to be able to get folks into these careers? So I'm going to share my screen. I just have a short slideshow to kind of go over what first of all, just what tiered licensure is and how we've worked to increase the amount of career and technical education teachers we have in Minnesota. There it comes. Okay. Move it so I can see it. Is that visible to folks?
I can see it. It's
Perfect.
not running yet, but I can see it.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to point out that when 3 years ago, when tiered licensure was put into place, one additional element was added. It's not only career and technical education now in Minnesota, but we added this piece of career pathways. And that's because there are many areas that might fall outside of career and technical education licensure areas. The most common in Minnesota are law enforcement and cosmetology, areas that didn't have specific licensure areas. So they were put under a career pathways broad scope, and we added rulemaking for that, which I'll talk about in a minute. But in general, here's the scope of tiered licensure. I won't dig into this slide, but it's helpful to think about a couple pieces here. One, Tier 1 and Tier 2 were really built to help folks that do not have teacher preparation enter the field of education and then be able to move up the tiers. So it becomes a great opportunity for individuals who are in the trades to be able to test out teaching, right? To come into a classroom, fill the need that districts have without trying to first find formal teacher preparation, right? Decide what it looks like for them and if they want to move up those tiers. What we have also when tiered licensure was put in place was a removal of the bachelor's degree requirement for everyone in the field of career and technical education, understanding that the skills and abilities that come with career and technical education aren't attached often to bachelor's degrees. So the BA requirement you will see is not required if the individual is in career and technical education. Additionally, there are permission types that go outside of tiered licensure. And the most important one for us to think about for thinking of career and technical education is that out of field permission. Because it is difficult for districts to hire one teacher that fills many different skill sets within career and technical education, oftentimes an individual has a teacher license in one area, let's say construction careers, but has the necessary skills to be able to work outside of that field and can receive an out of field permission to teach in multiple different licensure areas to be able to sort of become a 1.0 FTE in that district to be able to meet many needs of those students. So we use out of field permissions quite often actually for career and technical education teachers. I pulled some of these numbers for the committee today to help look at what do we currently have for teachers in Minnesota. The teacher supply and demand report actually came out last week as well from our board, going over general shortage areas. But what you'll see here, and by the way, the licensure areas for career and technical education changed about 15 or 20 years ago. And so what we have here is a list of what was changed then, but we still have individuals under those old licensure types. We call those legacy vocational licenses, which are down at the bottom. So you'll note that we don't have any tier 1 or tier 2 of those legacy because we don't actually operate those licensure types anymore.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Representative Keel.
Thank you. I don't know if the presentation is supposed to be moving, but it's a little hard to see the detail of the different slides, or am I just not patient?
Representative Keel, I think you're right. We need to have the presentation started. We're seeing it without you filling up the entire screen, and we can't see the detail of the 1, 2, 3, or 4.
My apologies.
That's okay.
Let me see if I can try sharing again. I had put it in slideshow mode. Does it help better if it's?
It's better that way, but it still is not running as a full screen presentation. I printed it out, so I was using printout, but.
Yeah, it would be helpful for the public to be able to see the numbers too, I would imagine.
If you click it this way on each slide, it's much better. It's still not full screen, however.
Okay, well, if it's better, Mr. Chair, I think I'll proceed with this in the interest of time. And I believe this is also on the committee's website as well for public members to be able to see. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. I printed it out, but not all members have that capability at home, and many of the members are working from home.
Oh, yes, of course. So on this slide, I'll try to go over some pieces of it as well for members. It lists the different career and technical education licensure areas we have, and then the amount of teachers that are in each tier currently in Minnesota. This doesn't necessarily mean they are working on that licensure area, but they hold that licensure area. So you'll note, of course, the majority of teachers in these licensure areas are tier 4. That's our highest tier. But we do have a significant amount of tier 1 and tier 2 teachers in a lot of the career and technical education areas. So these are individuals that are moving into education and we hope will stay in education. We also have, as I pointed out earlier with out-of-field permissions, a significant amount of out-of-field permissions being used in career and technical education licensure fields. One important part about this slide that I pulled in is how many teacher preparation programs we have in Minnesota to prepare these teachers. So, for example, construction careers has quite a lot of teachers working in that area, but only 3 teacher preparation programs in Minnesota preparing teachers, and 4 different licensure areas in career and technical education have no teacher preparation programs. So I'm actually testifying in the Senate this afternoon regarding a bill to help encourage increasing teacher preparation programs in areas where we have no licensure. So if someone would like to teach in early childhood careers, there is no teacher preparation program that could prepare them for that in Minnesota. They would have to use the licensure via portfolio process.
Mr. Liuzzi, which bill are you testifying to in the Senate? Do you have the Senate file number?
I do. It is Senate File 522.
And who's the author?
Senator Clausen.
Thank you.
Yeah. So a couple things that have changed in the past 3 years regarding career and technical education, and then identify some of the proposed changes that we've seen either within legislative or administrative rule. So first, the adoptive changes. I talked about the bachelor's degree exemption for career and technical education. It has 3 different possibilities if you don't have a bachelor's degree. That's professional certification in the area, 5 years of work experience in that area, or an associate's degree in that area. Additionally, understanding that career and technical education is a shortage area, the legislature decided in Tier 1, which has a limit of 3 renewals, 4 total years on a Tier 1, to have unlimited renewals for career and technical education. So a CTE teacher could stay on a Tier 1 unlimited under our tier licensure structure. In administrative rule, we copied a lot of what was put into statute, including for that portfolio pathway, an individual can use professional certification, 5 years of work experience, or an associate's degree to be able to count for their content portfolio and not have to identify how they met each one of those standards. We would say that your 5 years of work experience automatically allows you to meet that content experience, hopefully increasing the amount of folks that could move to a Tier 3 through the portfolio pathway. We have a couple proposals this year that we think would help with the career and technical education pathway. One of them is to have unlimited in Tier 2 renewals for career and technical educators. A Tier 1 license, the district is required to post the position each year to attempt to hire someone who has a higher license tier. What we've heard from from districts and from teachers is that that provides no job security. So these are folks that have left the trades to help prepare students in career and technical education, often higher paying jobs, have left to come work with students, and they are only given the guarantee to be able to work for 1 year in that district. If we're able to help those individuals move to a Tier 2 and have unlimited renewals at a Tier 2, you don't have to post the position. That person could be given much more assurances that they can keep their position. Additionally, we believe there are ways to help individuals in Tier 2 be able to have meet the requirements of a Tier 2. So there are many different complicated requirements for Tier 2, but we've altered some of those pieces to make sure that career and technical education fits firmly into that ability to fit into Tier 2. Additionally, we are looking at 2 aspects of administrative rule. We are going to open up the career and technical education licensure standards and think about ways to help expedite folks that want to be able to add different career and technical education fields. So they have one, what are ways that they could add others without going through an entire new career and technical education program. Additionally, and I believe you heard from Troy Haugen last week or sometime before, we have alternative pathways now in Minnesota, and Troy Haugen has worked with the Lakes Country Service Cooperative that has an alternative pathway outside of Institute of Higher Education to help prepare career and technical educators. And we continue to work both with 2-year colleges and other organizations to see if there are ways that we can expand opportunities to train more individuals through teacher preparation. So that is a very quick overview of what it looks like, licensure looks like in Minnesota, and I'd be happy, Mr. Chair, to entertain questions.
Members, any questions? I don't see anyone. Wait, Representative Bierman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Liuzzi, for the presentation. Very comprehensive. My question is on the training of the teachers. I believe that bill you're testifying for, I think is that for just online training for this coursework?
Mr. Liuzzi.
Mr. Chair, Representative Bierman, it has 3 portions of it. And the third portion is to say, state that if we can't develop a teacher preparation program in Minnesota, that we should seek an online program from another state outside of the state that individuals in Minnesota could use that online program. It also does say, as we encourage folks to programs to develop in Minnesota, that we encourage them to be online programs. So for example, St. Cloud State, if they were able to develop a career and technical education program, our board would encourage them to have that program be at least 80% online so that folks wouldn't have to travel to St. Cloud State. They could stay in the area that they live in Minnesota, but be able to use that program. So yes, it does have a significant online piece.
Representative Bierman.
Mr. Chair and Mr. Liuzzi, other question then is in regards to the online programming, does that significantly reduce the cost for those participating?
Representative, or I'm sorry, Mr. Liuzzi.
Mr. Chair, Representative Bierman, it is a question that I couldn't answer. Teacher preparation programs vary widely across the state and how much those programs cost. And I do not know, I bet some providers, it might actually decrease costs, but I assume that there are some providers that they feel that might actually increase their costs. So I would defer to teacher preparation programs to answer that question.
Representative
Thank you. And one final question, Mr. Chair. So the other question I have is in general, is there a need also for helping, say, folks who want to go into this that aren't maybe necessarily already in the trades, but they want to get the education, or they're teachers now, but they aren't qualified in these programs to go back to school and obtain those CTE licensures? Are there many programs to help them afford these programs?
Mr. Liuzzi.
Mr. Chair, Representative Bierman, there aren't. There are a couple grants through the Office of Higher Education, and those grants do specify shortage areas. So individuals seeking to get licensure in career and technical education could apply for those grants. But specifically to help teachers who are currently licensed being able to add these fields, there aren't any programs specific to that. The alternative pathway that I mentioned in Lakes Country Service Cooperative, that is an additional licensure program. So they do work with currently licensed teachers to add these CTE fields, but it is the only one. And so it's rare in Minnesota for these to have these licensure programs. So we do seek partners with folks, and we've been specifically working with two-year colleges, Minnesota State colleges, to be able to try to develop some more programs to have this opportunity for individuals.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Liuzzi.
Mr. Liuzzi, I share the concern about particularly online programs from outside of Minnesota. We have had over the past decade some not very good experiences with online education outside of Minnesota. I was hopeful that we would be able to create, and I think you're pointing us in the right direction, to do this within our own educational system so that we can monitor it and adjust it to our situation in Minnesota. And of course, we're using taxpayer dollars. I much prefer to use taxpayer dollars inside the state than outside of the state. I'm going to take a look at Senate File 522, and I haven't checked yet if there's a House companion. Senator Clausen's parents went to Winona State with my parents, so there's a connection here, and we have someone, the dean from Winona State's going to be on soon. I'm intrigued by the bill, but I also have a concern about online education, particularly anything outside of the state. Other members have questions on this? Seeing none, thank you very much. And we may return to you also before the session's over.
Thank you.
With that, we have Dr. Daniel Kirk, who is the Dean of the College of Education of Winona State University. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record. And if you could do a reaction to what you've just heard, because the first bill that we did here, which came out of the mini session in 2019, is to create the licensure and certification program with the use at Winona State and the Technical College. So welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record.
Yes, good morning, everyone. And Mr. Chair, may I say on behalf of the College of Education, many happy returns on your birthday. And I'd like to thank the committee for allowing me a chance to speak to you all today. I actually speak to you from the fantastic education village that I know many representatives here in the House generally had a major role in gaining funding for. So on behalf of Winona State and our surrounding districts, thank you. It's really given us an opportunity to think about how we reimagine preparing educators, leaders and counsellors for Minnesota. We've not been in it as much as we'd like to have been over the last 10 months, but we're excited to get folks back in. So Mr. Chair, yeah, I'd like to sort of just go through some points I'd like to raise, and some of which respond to the Executive Director of Pelowski who spoke before me, and then I can address some other specifics and questions if the committee would like that. So one of the challenges that we face in increasing CTE provision in K-12 schools is really the need to reform our K-12 system, right? To give greater opportunities for students to move into those career and technical fields and really follow a skill-focused pathway, especially one that leads to a technical trade. And as we know, and as we've heard in this meeting this morning, the labour market demands for skills and trades are increasing. And we know that there's a supply issue, certainly in Minnesota, for folks moving into those trades. A key pillar of getting to this point is a shortage of CTE teachers and educators who have the required blend of technical expertise along with a pedagogical and methodological understanding going through the licensure process, going through preparing to be an educator in whatever field. And it's well documented that there is a global shortage of teachers generally. The US is not immune to that. Across the US, there's a huge bidding war going on behind the scenes for teachers. Districts in Nevada, for example, are providing, poaching teachers from neighboring states and providing signing on bonuses, rent assistance and generous allowances to bring teachers in to meet their need. Oregon is looking at student loan forgiveness for teachers who commit to 5 years or more in public school districts. And attractive locations such as Hawaii, Florida, and even international destinations such as Bermuda are all incentivizing new recruits into the teaching profession. And so when we look at the framework of how we prepare teachers for CTE, we're also looking at that competitive market. We're looking at how we make ourselves an attractive proposition for those who want to move into those fields. Here in Minnesota, we're not immune to such competition and teacher shortages. And it's a crisis that our districts are facing, with a particular focus on greater Minnesota and our rural communities, who are really facing a staffing crisis among their teacher workforce. And the idea of including CTE to that is another element of that recruitment challenge. When we then look at the supply of CTE teachers, the situation is similar. CTE pathways are not offered equally across the state, as we've heard, and options for someone wanting to become a K-12 CTE educator are very limited. We just saw the numbers presented by Pelowski. There are barriers to increasing the number of CTE educators in the state, and these generally fall into the following categories. One, as we've heard, there are a lack of teacher education programs that offer the traditional CTE pathway for someone to move into that field. Two, resources. It's always about money, right? The availability of resources to try and link higher ed, K-12, our community colleges to prepare CTE educators. You know, CTE educator preparation is resource intensive in terms of the materials, the capital investment in machinery and so on that is needed. How we think creatively about partnerships to overcome that is a key part to solving this. There is still a perception that trade and skills pathways in schools are not on a par with traditional academic routes. There is still a perception that moving the academic college four-year pathway is still privileged. We have to think about how we reframe that. And some of the work from your first group who presented this morning from the construction and trades industry, I think is really enlightening how some of that work can happen. The old one, teacher salaries, comparing the salary of a new teacher to someone who has a trade and is potentially coming out of the trades and looking for a second, third career is a challenge. Some of our tradesmen and women are highly paid professionals. Our starting salaries for new entrants into the teaching profession are not on a par with that. So there is an economic issue there as well. And then recruitment. We don't have an effective way to recruit and retain CTE teachers. We don't have a good way of thinking about someone who comes out with a trade, has maybe worked in a trade and wants to move into education later in their career, or a new entrant. We don't have solid pathways to show that career progression. So those are some of the challenges, but I'm not a challenge person, I'm a solutions person. So here are some of the issues that I think, and some of the positive ways forward we could think about this. Firstly, I think we need to ensure K-12 students see CTE as a viable, meaningful and valued pathway for not only their own education, but as a career. And we've heard some of that work this morning is going on. Learning a skill in a trade that can be seen to provide a long-term career is key to embedding such programs alongside traditional academic programming, not as a bolt-on or not something that happens in isolation, but really embedding it in our K-12 system, with each being equal in both perception and resources. Next, the recruitment and retention of potential CTE educators. There are two main candidate pools here. There are the early career teachers who come through K-12, they want to go into education, they want to be teachers, and a CTE field is the field they want to move into. And secondly, as we heard so powerfully from helmets to hard hats, those highly qualified professionals and others who are coming into teaching later in their career, they hold trade credentials and they're looking for a new career pathway and thinking education might be it. There's a rich untapped pool of those candidates, and actively seeking those who would consider moving into education as teachers and educators would be a useful and wise use of resources. If we had a model of credentialing that focused on the pedagogy and methodology, ideally in partnership with the secondary and tertiary education sectors, training to be a teacher for those who already hold those skills, and maybe it's a second, third or fourth career for those individuals, would seem manageable and worthwhile to them. So to sum up, I believe that there's a broad and deep need for more CTE educators, and the labour market demands of needing graduates with skills and trades leads us to a real supply and demand disconnect at the moment, and we've heard about that earlier. So we need to think about how we seek innovative ways to meet this need, blending the boundaries between K-12, tech colleges, 2 years, and universities will be a good way to build such CT educator preparation programs. I don't believe this is a problem that's going to be solved by an institution or a type of institution. So through such a braided partnership model, resources, expertise, and credentialing pathways can be delivered in a way that would create attractive, nimble, and meaningful pathways and deepen the pool of CTE educators across the state, and therefore increasing opportunities for our K-12 students. We know from our research on teacher preparation that many folks come into the teaching profession because they see every day in their schools models of teachers in the classroom, and they think that's a career for me. We need the same with our CT educators to build that pipeline from middle, high through into the profession. So with that, I'm happy to, and I'm sure you all are, for me to stop and take any questions you may have.
Members, questions? I don't see a hand up at this time, unless I'm missing somebody. We will be calling you up again as we proceed down the road. So thank you, and stay tuned. And I know that I think President Olson is also monitoring this. Members, we've also had Wisconsin monitoring this. I've had a connection with a former student of my father's who emailed me, and I think I emailed a few of you what she had sent me. Wisconsin is looking very closely at what we're doing too. They're in the same situation. So with that, thank you. And I'm going to move to the next item on the agenda. Members, I'm going to move that House File 38 be recommended to pass and be re-referred to the Ways and Means Committee. Members, House File 38 is the bill that would put $30 million back into the disaster assistance contingency account. We've already had a hearing on this. In fact, we've had a couple of them. This is the bill for this session. The account is now down to less than $4 million. We are rapidly heading into spring where we know we are going to have issues with probably flooding and other items. There's an ongoing discussion here about this account, and we will have a subsequent hearing on a bill I share with Senator Rosen about the use of this account for civil unrest. So members, with that, I'll open it up for discussion. I don't see any discussion. Representative Keel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I am encouraged that we're thinking about funding the disaster account for natural disasters, and would really emphasize the fact that we need to make sure that stays as natural disasters. I come from, both Representative Burkle and I come from the Red River Valley, where we often struggle with floods. We probably won't this year unless March makes a liar out of me. But right now it's looking pretty calm. But I'm sure Chair Pelowski, you know, in your vast years here at the Capitol, that we have those surprises quite often. And but I am concerned about the fact that we would be using these for other than natural disasters as funding, and want to make sure that we are protecting that fund just for natural disasters. Even in my tenure here, I know we've helped northern Minneapolis with a tornado. I believe Wadena had problems, and other areas have. So it's very important we're ready to help our citizens when they need that. So you can assure me that we're going to keep this as a natural disaster, Chair Pelowski?
Representative Keel, I share your concerns. I'm the House author of Senator Rosen's bill, which is House File, I think, 444. We're going to have a full-blown hearing on that, and we're also going to include the county disaster managers in that. I met with them last week. They have real concerns here too about how this account is being used. And there are real issues with even including the language that I've discussed with Senator Rosen. So I want a full hearing on that. I will remind members that in 2019 and 2020, this account was one of the first 5 accounts signed into law by the governor in both years. So we know we are on the precipice here of spring and the start of these disasters. And we want to make sure that the local units of government will get all the support that they need to handle them. Representative Burkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you actually answered my question. It was really pertaining to when we were going to hear something on 444. But thank you for authoring that bill. I'd like to sign on to that bill actually, and looking forward to hearing it.
Representative
with that-
Burkle, you're welcome to sign on.
Okay, thank
So
you.
please do. I see Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a concern I have with it, and several in my district actually, in speaking with them, with I think it was approximately 12 million that was used by the governor for the disaster in Minneapolis. And albeit it wasn't indeed a disaster, a very sad one, many folks believe it could have been avoided by the governor's actions sooner. But that being said, it's over. Is the unfunded or uninsured third precinct and other uninsured city items. Last week, the commissioner of the emergency fund did testify, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I forget, that it was went to city infrastructure, light poles, stoplights, third precinct, that were uninsured. And when I shared that with my colleagues and some folks here in Wright County, quite surprised. And what in the heck are they doing uninsuring a building, a police building, and then using the emergency fund to rebuild? So that's a grave concern. And Mr. Chair, I want your thoughts on that. And what, since you're introducing the bill here, why do you think that they should use this money for that when they were negligent, obviously the city of Minneapolis, of ensuring their infrastructure? I assure you, the city of Delano and those in Wright County, through the City League of Minnesota Cities, we ensure our public infrastructure and protect the taxpayers' dollars. So what's your thoughts on that, Mr. Chair?
Representative McDonald, first of all, we're going to revisit that issue when we take a look at House File 444. Secondly, I want to emphasize here that what was done was not illegal. It was unique. And that has caught everyone off guard, that the fund was used in this way. Both federal law and state law and the definition of disaster allowed it to be used in that fashion. Subsequently, the governor has, and that has passed out of Ways and Means as of yesterday, the SAFE Act, which would create a whole new account, which mirrors the 12B account, but which would be used for civil unrest. That I think everyone will have the opportunity to weigh in on shortly on the House floor. I wanted to make sure that this account was poised to do what we had originally intended it to do, and that if the new account is created, that would hopefully take the relief off accessing this account. Representative Edelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm a little confused right now. Is the bill before us, or why are we discussing this right now?
The bill is before us. It's House File 38. I made the motion to refer it to Ways and Means. It's a bill that would restore to the account 30 million, which is the amounts that we have put in it in 2019 and 2020. And it would put the account back to where it was prior to the draining of the account over the last year. It's down to less than $4 million right now.
Mr. Chair.
I don't know who that is right offhand.
Old McDonald.
Okay, Representative McDonald.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, do I get to respond to your comments?
Yes, I'm sorry, Representative McDonald, you sure can.
No, that's fine. And I appreciate your comments. Sincerely, you certainly are very informative, and I was informed on the issue there. But I think that we need to be careful when a city neglects to insure a piece of property. Maybe I'm wrong on this. I don't know. I certainly will admit to that. But if a city neglects to insure a piece of property that is owned by the city and paid by the tax dollar, then we ought to be careful not to bail them out for that negligence in future ongoings. Just my thoughts and some thoughts of some folks here in Wright County.
Representative McDonald, you're going to have the opportunity in this committee, and I think on the House floor soon, to have answers to that question.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Frazier. I think it's Representative Frazier. Yes, it is.
It is. It is. Thank you, Chair. I don't believe the bill with the language that would carve out the civil unrest, that's not in front of us, correct?
No, that is not in front of us. That
Okay.
is a separate bill. I want to keep this bill clean to restore the account and have that as an issue separately. That would be House File 444.
That's what I thought. I mean, my concern is that's where this conversation is mostly leaning though. And here's my concern. I hear the terms bailout being thrown out, and I would never consider it a bailout when we're helping our residents and our community members in greater Minnesota, which, I mean, these things happen all the time. We had a presentation which said 90% of these funds go to greater Minnesota. And so I get really concerned when I continue to hear language that these resources would go to anywhere in the metro area when there has been a disaster. That was not the fault of people that have been harmed by that disaster. And I just want to keep centering around that. We're talking about helping our fellow community members and residents in the state of Minnesota. I want to make sure that we keep a focus on that instead of this divisive language of bailouts. And I just want to keep that focus there when having these conversations.
All right, Representative McDonald, I think I saw your hand next.
Yeah, I want to respond to Representative Fraser. By no means did I suggest that we shouldn't help out our folks and friends in the cities. I have many constituents that are concerned that we should do so with taxpayers' dollars, with the emergency fund, because of what happened, because of the lack of leadership of stopping it. What I said was, in doing so with an uninsured public building that was neglected to be insured by the city. So I just want my words to be clear, that wasn't a bailout of helping our friends in the cities, but the neglect of leadership and the point of not insuring a building that now we have to come out and help out. So there was contingencies to my comments about helping out.
Representative Burkle. Representative Burkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wanted to respond to Representative Fraser too, and kind of chime on, on Representative McDonald's comments. I'm in full agreement with Representative McDonald. This shouldn't be a divisive issue. Refunding. I'll fully support voting for the $30 million, but I really think we need to look at the civil unrest language in 444 and make sure that, I mean, the difference between the two situations is that the Red River of the North flowing north when spring comes and the water and the ice is thawing is an entirely different issue from the governor's inaction back in May. So what we need to do to help Minneapolis and what happened in Minneapolis needs to be a separate issue, and the fund was meant for natural disasters. I think that's the way the definition needs to be made. So,
and we will have that discussion. Representative Fraser, if you can be brief, and then I'm going to go to a roll call.
I'll just thank you, Representative Burkle. Thank you, Representative McDonald, for your comments. I'll hold my powder for the discussion on the F bill with the actual language in it. Thank you.
All right. The clerk will take the roll. Chair votes aye.
Pelowski, aye. Sandell.
Aye.
Sandell, aye. Keel.
Keel, aye.
Keel, aye. Bierman.
Chairman, aye.
Bierman, aye. Bliss.
Aye.
Bliss, aye. Burkle.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle, aye. Edelson.
Aye.
Edelson, aye. Fraser.
Aye.
Fraser, aye. Hamilton.
Hamilton, no.
Hamilton, nay. Liz Lagarde.
Liz Lagarde, aye.
Liz Lagarde, aye. McDonald.
McDonald, aye.
McDonald, aye. Sandsted.
Aye.
Sandsted, aye. Sundin. Sundin. Eleven ayes, 1 nay, 1 excused.
The bill passes and it will be on its way to Ways and Means. Thank you, members. And with that, meeting is adjourned.